Yeah, 5 and 6 seem fine to me, but I want to express concern about 4. The main mechanism through which some of the wealthiest corporations in the world avoid tax is through the category of intangible assets, patents on intellectual property, which big multinationals pay for the use of their own patents. One subsidiary of a company pays another subsidiary of the same company for the use of their own patent. And by doing that, they write down their profits. And effectively, they can charge themselves whatever they like. So if the sales and revenue of a company like a pharmaceutical company or an IT company are €1 billion, they can decide that another of their own subsidiaries is going to charge them 900 million euro for the use of that patent, thus writing down their tax liability to virtually nothing. It's essentially a way the big multinationals are allowed and facilitated to write their own tax bills, and it's why the 12.5% tax rate, itself one of the lowest corporate tax rates in the world, is a complete joke in this country, because the big multinationals don't actually pay anything even close to that because of their exploitation of this category of intangible assets. And it's worth saying, I really do recommend for the economic nerds to have a look at the tables that are produced by revenue every year on corporate tax deductions, reliefs and allowances. And it's a table of about 2 pages, very small print, but it has on it probably about 100 tax reliefs. And buried in the tiny print, there is a category, a line, which is called Intragroup transactions. And the Intragroup transaction relief for the latest available figures is €16 billion. That's up from the previous year of €9 billion and the year before that of about €6 billion. So you can see how there is an exponential growth in the tax relief that has been claimed against intangible assets through these intragroup transactions between different subsidiaries of the same multinational corporation in order to write down their taxable profit to negligible levels and pay no tax. Now, the point is, how does this measure, which is very ill-explained in the budget book, fit into that really scandalous picture? And the briefing note, I invite deputies to look at the briefing in the estimates book. It's about 3 lines long, and it tells you absolutely nothing. Nothing. We don't know what this measure does. It's something about balancing charges. Well, we don't know which way it balances them. Does it balance them in favour of the multinationals and even more assets being allowed into this category where they can write down their tax liability, which is already at negligible levels, to an even greater level? And this is, this is the scandal of budgets. It's the scandal of economies in the modern world. It is the scandal of the Irish economy. While we spend all of our time discussing over the crumbs, literally, that we're begging for in some cases for people's PUP payments, or for additional expenditure in health, or additional expenditure in education, the cake is in this little document produced by Revenue, the list of tax reliefs. And people really need to understand the scale of this. In the last available figures, 189 billion pre-tax gross profits. on which about 5%, there was about 5% tax liability. That figure, 189, just to put it in context, gross pre-tax trading profits is up from about 79 billion in 2010. So a more than doubling of corporate tax profits over the last 10 years. Absolutely extraordinary, and they are paying about 5% tax on average. But of course, the big corporations who can exploit intangible assets as a category of tax deduction or allowance to write down their tax liability are paying far, far less than 5%. It's an utter scandal. They are robbing not just the people of this country, but they are robbing the ordinary people all over the world, and it is a major, if not, it is actually the major contributor to global inequality, to growing global inequality between the rich and the poor, and the really staggering, astonishing, shameful concentration of wealth in the hands of a tiny number of corporations owned by multi-billionaires whose wealth is just beyond the imagination of the normal human being. We are a major facilitator of this. That category, intangible assets, is the key category which allows them to do it, and this motion has something to do with that, and interestingly is explained with 3 lines that tell you absolutely nothing. So I am deeply suspicious. I wonder who even knows about this. Does the minister who introduced it even understand it? What it actually does? It would be helpful to get an explanation, but I would be suspicious, and to be honest, unless I hear a good explanation from somebody, I would be inclined to vote against it.
Thank you very much, Deputy.